Hey folks, welcome to Motorola's headquarters in Chicago. What you're looking at here is the Moto G Stylus and the Moto G Power. Now you notice I'm not saying G8, and the reason for that is because this year they're not using numbers. It's just Moto G Stylus and Moto G Power. And as you can see, they're very identical. I'm going to show them to you really quickly on the back. As you can see, this is a bluish color, this is a grayish color. In terms of layout and specs, they look very similar, and I'm going to walk you through this real quick. So I'm going to focus on the Stylus, this one, because, well, you guessed it, there is a Stylus. It's just a simple capacitive stylus, completely passive, no buttons, nothing, and it stores neatly in the phone. Now, the Power doesn't have a stylus, but it has a larger battery, 5,000 milliamp hour versus 4,000, basically more energy, more power, longer battery life. There's a few other small software differences, but essentially that's the gist of it. So let me walk you through this. The Moto G Stylus and G Power are basically powered by Snapdragon 665 with 4 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage on the G Stylus, 64 gigs of storage on the regular G Power. Other than that, they're pretty much identical, and the batteries, of course. Now, I'll get to the cameras in a minute. Let's discuss the displays real quick. So this display is an IPS panel, and as you can see here, there is a hole punch camera. Now, this is a 6.4-inch display, 19 by 9, full HD. It is an LCD panel, and it's got a 16 megapixel camera hidden here in the corner. You can see there's an earpiece, and yeah, it's a pretty nice display. Nothing to complain about here. Pretty much what you'd expect for this price point. And I'll get to the prices in a minute. Now, the other thing you need to know is the cameras. So let's talk about them because this is actually interesting. They got a 48 megapixel main sensor here with an LED flash. And then you got two more cameras. You have an 8 megapixel ultra wide, 117 degree field of view, and a 2 megapixel macro with autofocus. There's no OIS here, but the macro is really interesting because very usually when they do a separate macro with 2 megapixels like this, they don't have autofocus on it. So this actually will focus properly, which is great. You can see laser autofocus here, rear mounted fingerprint reader capacitive, pretty much what you'd expect. So that's what you're looking at here with the G series this year. And again, not a G8, but a G Stylus or a G Power. Now, other than the battery and the storage differences, there's a few other things you can do. This phone here, the G Stylus, supports the action mode, where if you use the wide angle camera in the back to record video, you can record it holding it like this, like a GoPro, and it will record landscape by cropping the sensor. Very much like the Moto One Action. In terms of pricing, $299 for the Stylus, $249 for the Power. So that's actually a pretty decent aggressive pricing. These should be available pretty soon, unlocked, and they will be sold in the US as well as the rest of the world in various markets, as Lenovo/Moto does usually. Both are running Android 10, both have a headphone jack, and of course the cameras have night vision, which is Moto's night mode. Nothing too surprising here. So the colors you see here are pretty much the colors we're going to get, an indigo and a gray, and that's it for choices. Not too much going on here, unfortunately. So that's it, folks. This is the Moto G Stylus and the Moto G Power here in Chicago at the launch event. Pretty interesting mid-range phones. They're pretty affordably priced, and hopefully they'll go down in price a little bit like Motos usually do. And I think for the specs here, this is a pretty nice package. So I hope you like this video. Stay tuned for more. Please like, subscribe, click the little notification icon below, comment in the comments below, and remember, if you want to hear more about these phones, listen to the Mobile Tech Podcast at mobiletechpodcast.com. That's where all the action happens. Stay tuned for the next show, and until then, cheers everybody.